Hello, guys. Welcome back to the SOS Show Live with the Mary Evans. SOS stands for Share Our Story. I'm your host with a strong belief that there's power in sharing stories. I'm dedicated to dropping content that will inspire, motivate, and educate you to live your best life, leaving a legacy and building generational wealth. We have an amazing topic today. We're going to be talking about crowdfunding. And what does that mean and opportunities? Let's give our sponsor some love before the show.
At Pontiac Meals on Wheels, our community-based service provides fresh, nutritious meals delivered directly to the homes of seniors and individuals with disabilities throughout the city. Meals on Wheels is happy to have partners that support our mission and vision. Pontiac Meals on Wheels depends on the generosity of many individuals, companies, foundations, and organizations to help provide nutritious meals and support services to the 400-plus homebound individuals we serve each year. Your gifts truly make a difference in their lives and their ability to remain living independently in the comfort of their own homes.
Hello, welcome back. Let's welcome Mr. Bill Huston to the show, please. Hello, Bill. How are you?
Great. Again, I want to thank you for allowing me to be here and to participate in this, to talk about how we build generational wealth. When you said generational wealth, that's one of the things that really makes me smile. One of the few things that we don't think about is building that generational wealth. And what is the legacy that we're going to leave when we are long gone from here? What legacy do we leave behind?
Awesome. That's my passion, building generational wealth and leaving a legacy. Bill, today I would like to do a recap from last week because it's very important that we get this crowdfunding thing and what does crowdfunding mean, and when you are participating in crowdfunding, the opportunities that arise from that. So let's just recap from last week, and I'm going to let you take over the show, Bill, telling us about 4 other ways that we can use crowdfunding.
Great, Mary. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about crowdfunding. I always tell people that if you talk to me for 5 minutes or more, we're going to be talking about crowdfunding because crowdfunding is so important, especially in our community. I would venture to say that crowdfunding is the most important economic legislation for the Black community since the Emancipation Proclamation. What is crowdfunding? That may be the great place to start. And basically, at its very essence, what crowdfunding is being able to get small amounts of money from a large group of people. It's very simple. If you think about when you go to church on Sunday, you expect that the church is going to be heated in the winter, cooled in the summer, that the water and the gas and electric is going to be on. So no one person pays for that. What happens is everybody at the church, they donate, they put in small amounts of money to make sure that we all get to that shared goal. Crowdfunding is the same thing, except what we're talking about now is not keeping the lights on at the church, but how we start to build and finance businesses and how we start to build and finance real estate. So that's what crowdfunding is at its very essence. And the reason crowdfunding is so important to our community is because there are these systemic barriers that exist in the economic world, in the lending world, especially for Black entrepreneurs and real estate developers, where we don't have the opportunity to raise the amount of capital that other groups do. What do I mean by that? When you look at the data points, what we see is that SBA loans, only 3% of SBA loans go to Black-owned businesses. 0.27% of venture capital goes to Black women entrepreneurs, even though that's the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in the whole United States are Black women, but they only get 0.27% of venture capital. And as a whole, we get less than 1% of venture capital. So there are a couple of things that we can do. We can sit around and we can complain about not having access to capital to build our businesses and our real estate, or we can turn to crowdfunding, which is a new form of capital aggregation that's done on the internet. That's what we talked about last week. This week, what we want to do is we want to dig a little deeper into crowdfunding and what crowdfunding is. So what we're going to talk about tonight are 4 different types of crowdfunding.
Okay, I have a question. Let's take a breath. I could tell you passionate about it, and I am too. But take a deep breath. We're not gonna rush. We good. I just want to throw a question out at you. And when we talk about things, you talked about how important it is for the community, in particular the Black community. I had a question rise to me. They said, Mary, most of my shows and topics is all about education and inspiring. When you have a show that is more reality wrote, or when you have a show that's a lot of, they say giving the tea, gossip, like type shows, I tell you, we can get 1 million people on watching. In your opinion, Bill, we know that this is something that's so important. Why do you think it's so hard to get our people to get the education? They used to say we won't read. I try to get it, bring it to them so they won't have to read. If I have a show on gossiping, talking about celebrity news, who's dating who, we all in those type of shows and content. Why do you think it's so hard for our people to relate or even want the knowledge? Like, I sort of don't get it. I just want your opinion.
Well, you said the key word there, Mary, and that is relate. This is something that a lot of times we don't relate to. The way we in our community, and when I say we, that includes me, the way we look at money is we look at money as a means of purchasing, of consuming goods. We don't look at money as a tool to build that long-term generational wealth. We don't look at money as a way to leave a legacy. We don't think about, if I build a building and I leave my name on that building, that 100 years from now, that building will still be standing, and that's going to be part of my legacy and the legacy for my children and my grandchildren. And not only a legacy for them, but perhaps an asset for them to be able to generate more revenue over time. When I was a kid growing up, we didn't sit around the kitchen table and talk about profit and loss statements. We didn't talk about assets. So it's not a part of our culture. But we have to learn that, right? We have to take the time to learn that. And that's what I think that we really have to do, is we have to understand the real use and value of money.
You have a great point there. So yes, a lot of people, it wasn't a conversation around a dinner table, and we just have to keep putting it out there. And I think that we are starting to reach, but once we change our mindset about money, how we save, spend, and are educating our children, that's how we change generations after generation. And, that's something I never give up on. I'm very passionate about that. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts, because I'm just like, wow, you can change your life and future generation just by a little education that we present on the show. So we'll move forward. Let's talk about the different ways that you could crowdfund, starting with you taking off from here. Thank you.
All right, great. I really appreciate that. And as I get into the 4 different types of crowdfunding, the one thing that I really want to say that follows up to what we just spoke about, Mary, is that crowdfunding is something that is actionable. It's not painful. It's not painful for me to donate $10 or $25 to build a business. That's not painful. So when we talk about donation, a lot of times what we think about is GoFundMe. How do we do a GoFundMe donation? We go there a lot of times. We think about, a tornado, a hurricane, a death in the family, and that's a way that we can fund things. But you know what? We can fund businesses through donations as well. $10, $20, that won't hurt us individually. But if we get that $10 or $20 from 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, then it starts to add up. And then we can get the bakery in our neighborhood. Then we can start to build other businesses in our neighborhood. And when we start to do that, what happens is we keep that money in our community. That money's not leaving our community. So when we think about donations, we don't necessarily have to think about donating to tragedies. We can donate to a business. That makes a lot of sense. The second type that I really want to talk about is rewards crowdfunding, what I like to call seed crowdfunding. That is where you may have a product like a new case for phones. And what you do is you pre-sell that product. So I have a great idea. I have an idea for the product, and all I need is the money to build the product, and then I can start my business. So what I do is I go to the crowd and I tell the crowd about this exciting new phone case. The crowd says, great, I believe in this phone case. And what they do is they say, I'm going to buy this phone case from you today, and you give me that phone case in 3 months or 6 months.
Okay.
That's another way that we can use crowdfunding to start building businesses. The next way that we can use crowdfunding is we can use crowdfunding in a very new form that came around 2016, and that's called investment crowdfunding. And in investment crowdfunding, that is securities based. So the SEC and FINRA, they have to certify the platform to be a broker dealer on there. It's a little more complicated. But what happens is I am actually purchasing securities. Like you buy stocks or bonds, that's what I'm doing in investment crowdfunding. If I go through an equity portal or an equity raise, then I am buying a stock in a particular company. So now if I buy a stock in the local bakery, every time I go to that bakery, I am helping to increase the value of that stock in the future. Every time I tell someone to go to that bakery and purchase something, I'm increasing that stock. That is a good thing. And now everybody in the community wins. The owner wins, and I win because I am now an owner. Now I own a small part of it, but I am an owner of that. The second way that we can use investment crowdfunding is through debt. Debt is where you give a loan. You provide a loan to a business. That business says, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pay you back the principal plus interest over time. So what happens is you become the bank. So because only about 3% or less of the funds that we are able to get from the SBA, that lack of access to capital, today what can happen is we can come together. Everybody can invest a small amount of money. We become the bank, and then we loan the money to the business. The business pays us back interest. And not only do they pay us interest, but at the end of the term, whatever that term is, we get our money back. Just like the bank, there's no magic here. One of my favorite sayings from Marcus Garvey is that anything that a man can do, then a man can do. There's no magic on this planet. If other people can create banks, then we can create banks ourselves. And that's one of the things that I think is really powerful and that I really love. And the last part of crowdfunding that I'm going to talk about is a form of investment crowdfunding, but it's very specific to crowdfunding, and that's real estate crowdfunding. So again, you can use equity or you can use debt, but again, you become either the bank or an owner in a real estate project. So if you think about it from this perspective, if there's a group of investors, right, who do fix and flip it,
Yes.
and there's 5 or 6 of these guys, they all individuals, and they each fix and flip a property. They take all the risk. Now, if it's successful, they get all the benefits. But if it's not successful, they have to take all the losses. What if all those fix and flip it's? What if all those investors said, let's come together and let's do an entire block. Let's raise $1 million to do this. And not only are we going to be able to invest, but we can allow people who are not fix and flippers, who are not people who invest in real estate normally, they have the opportunity to invest as passive investors as well. And when they do that, what we're doing is we're raising the capital to rehab a whole block, but also we're providing an opportunity for everybody in the community to build wealth through inclusive investing. That's what makes crowdfunding such a powerful tool that we have to grasp in our community.
Wow. Before I go into a couple of questions, I want to put up a couple of comments that we have. Dr. Desmond Ardano had a comment. As a people, we have a love-hate relationship with money. Our experience as a people did not provide us with a great deal of experience with money. Now is the time to develop financial literacy. That is so true. Boy, that is so true. You know, well said, Mr. Huston, American Dream Marketplace. I want to break this down just a little bit. Donna G. Brown, as a whole, the Black dollar only stays in the community now for less than 30 minutes, whereas in 1920, the Black dollar stayed in the community over a year and a half before it left. It's time for us to go back. We know that. So I want to use my current situation as example, and I'm trying to learn, and maybe this will help someone else as well. So I now own 10 lots on a street here in Pontiac. And the lots are all cohesed together. So that means I can do, put up some type of individual homes, small homes, whatever that case may be. If I wanted to do something with the community on those lots, and we won't go over the whole process, but to begin that process, I already have the incorporation, the EIN number that these lots are up under, right? Incorporated. What would be my next step to move in the crowdfunding direction to start this project here in Pontiac?
Great question. And this is something that we can do in a practical sense. So the first thing we would have to do is we would have to find a platform, a broker dealer who is certified by the SEC and FINRA, right? So that would be Buy the Block. Buy the Block would be the one that I would recommend. So you would go to Buy the Block, and what you'd have to do is you'd have to create a pitch deck, you'd have to create a business plan, and with that, you would want to create your shared vision. You want to, on that platform, be able to show people, here are the vacant lots that we have. But if you invest in this process, what we're going to end up with is this. So we would want to get those renderings. We would want to show people how this is going to change. We would also want to tell people how they're going to benefit from this. What is going to be, if I invest this much, what percentage am I going to make on my investment? Because that's very important. And understanding, what the return on investment is going to be, that would be our next step. But all of that has to occur on the Buy the Block platform, or whatever platform you choose to use. I would recommend Buy the Block, because Buy the Block is something that's for our community, by our community. And then from there, what we would do is we would create the offer. The offer would go live. I would go to Buy the Block as a block vestor, and then I would fill out what we would call a registration. Fill out that registration. After I complete my registration, then the next step would be to make my investment. After I make the investment and I have ownership in that, I'm going to tell everybody I know to make their investment, to go there and to be a part of this. And that's how we build community wealth. That's how we change our communities one project at a time.
Okay, so this is awesome. Now I know you guys, with the knowledge that you have, can be a one-stop shop. I'm asking you, would that be a project that you will work along with me? Because I know all the things that you asked for, you guys also offer to help put that deal together. We have to do some work, but you do offer the assistance of putting it together. I would like to take my 10 lots that I have in Pontiac, and we can be very transparent and work that deal and break it down across the show, on the SOS show, because I also believe in, we can educate, but it's nothing like my grandmother used to say, is proof in the pudding. Let's start that project with the 10 lots that I own, and let's just put it together, show people what we're doing. As we put it together, we'll go live, and I think that'll be an excellent project for you and I. You can be a thank you so much, Ms. Dorez. You can be a owner, or I could just pay you for your services, but I'm not greedy. I believe in collaboration. And I think if we can pull that off in my hometown and let them see what Buy the Block is about, for us, by us, for Black people, by Black people, I'm going to say that. And with your program, The American Dream, I think that we could not do it any better than for us to do a project and they watch it unfold on a SOS show. What do you think about that?
I think that would be great. That would be the most powerful thing that we can do, because you can talk about things, you can talk about being a carpenter, but until you start hammering nails, you're not a carpenter.
Well, guess what? We getting ready to start putting it together, and we're going to be transparent, and we will fold it out right on the SOS show. And I guarantee you others will follow. It's time for us to change the narrative, the way we live from check to check, going to the banks begging for money, being the denial. It frustrates us. It makes us give up. And I'm here to present content that keep us inspired and motivated. Would you like to tell the audience anything else before we end this show? I'm so excited to collaborate with you.
I'm absolutely excited. Two things real quick. If you visit crowd-max.com, you can grab your free copy of the crowdfunding essentials that tell you how the process of crowdfunding works. And the other thing is, keep your eye out for the American Dream Fund. We're going to kick off a crowdfunding campaign to raise $10 million by raising $10 from 1 million people in our community. Then we don't have to worry about the banks and venture capital not funding us.
Awesome. This is powerful. This is powerful. Buy the block, the American Dream, African American owned, the American Dream. We're going to do this, and we're going to bring some people along with us. Thanks for watching the SOS show. We appreciate you. Sharing is caring. Please like, comment, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and we will see you next week on Hot Topic Tuesday, 7 p.m. Thank you. And thank you for being here, Mr. Huston.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you asking me to come on.